Okay, it worked. Good morning and welcome, dear friends. Welcome to our spiritual home, the Unitarian Universalist Church of Tarpon Springs. My name is Lizzie, and I am serving as worship associate today. For those who may not be able to see me, I am a shorter woman, multi-ethnic background, but white passing. I have short blonde hair. I'm wearing all black in grieving of the efforts to restrict our freedoms in the recent weeks. For the benefit of those with hearing impairment, we ask that anyone speaking today speak clearly and project. And we want to acknowledge that here at the church, we are on the lands of the Tocobaga and Seminole peoples. We offer a warm welcome to the guests that are with us today. We would love to get to know you better and hope that you'll join us following the service for coffee hour and refreshments. Our mission states we are a liberal faith community for all ages, promoting spiritual growth, social justice, and the arts. Lay-led services are a time-honored tradition in our heritage. Here at UUCTS, we value shared ministry. So today we will hear from myself and Barbara Mellon in our service titled, Why Does It Even Matter? Regaining the Lost Trust of the Next Generations. The description for the message today and the service is that many millennials and younger generations do not trust their parents' and grandparents' generations due to the state of the world. Is there a way for the trust to be regained, and does it matter? And our younger children now trust us to make the world a better place for them. How can we maintain this trust? How can and does social justice tie into this? Barbara Mellon grew up in the United Methodist Church, or the Methodist Church, but considers herself agnostic and has been attending UU Tarpon since 2017 with her son Alex, becoming a member in late 2019. She's on the board of trustees, active with the Rainbow Welcome Circle with a focus on LGBTQIA+ concerns, access to books and reading, including our banned book movies, and she leads the Navigator USA Scout Troop based here at the church. On Sundays, you'll often see her sitting in the back knitting, as that helps her focus on the service. She has been in medical sales for over 20 years. So you started when you were 10? She has 2 bachelor's degrees in management information systems and Spanish, as well as a master's in global management. She does not sit down, y'all. She's always going. She's a survivor of domestic violence and advocates for an end to intimate partner violence and for laws protecting victims and survivors. Outside of church, she and her family do additional volunteer work, so feel free to ask her son Alex about that. She's lived in Florida since 2012, having moved from the Northeast. She desperately misses the snow and seasons. As for myself, I was also raised in the United Methodist Church, and I now identify as Unitarian Universalist with pagan and Buddhist infusions. I've been attending this church since 2022 with my daughter and sometimes my wife. I'm serving on the finance committee, trying to remain active with the Rainbow Welcome Circle, and I practice psychotherapy during the week here at 57 Reed Street. My practice is called Rainbow Family Wellness. I'm a licensed clinical social worker with a love for the LGBTQIA+ community, for advocacy, intellectualism, and the arts. I've lived in Florida since 2016, and I am cherishing each day here as we prepare for residency in Canada.
Good morning.
Our music today is prepared by Rhody and provided by her. Anne is an active member of the First Universalist Church of Rochester, New York, right near my hometown, has been a frequent seasonal visitor at UU Tarpon, a retired music educator who loves musical theater. Anne has performed locally at Francis Wilson Playhouse and 8 O'Clock Theater, and in many productions in the Rochester, New York area. Again, a warm welcome to our service.
Our opening hymn this morning is number 120. You will probably recognize the tune, but it is typically sung to some other words. So I invite you to rise in body or spirit. I thought these particular words were a little more germane to the topic today. So rise as you are able and join me in Turn Back.
Turn back, forswear thy foolish ways. Oh, now is earth, and none may count its days. Yet humankind, whose head is crowned with flame, still will not hear the inner God proclaim. Turn back, forswear thy foolish ways. Earth might be fair, its people glad and wise. Age after age, our tragic empires rise, built while we dream, and in that dreaming weep. Would we but wake from out our haunted sleep. Earth might be fair, and people glad and wise. Earth shall be fair, and all its people one. Nor till that hour shall God's whole will be done. Now, even now, once more from earth to sky, peals forth in joy that old undaunted cry. Earth shall be fair, and all its people one.
So I'm pointing out to Alex, one of his friends has gotten here. He'll be excited. All right. So, as said, my name is Barbara Mellon. I'm in my early 40s, a thin white woman with long brown hair. Today, I'm wearing a long blue dress that I don't get to wear often, so I'm excited. As I mentioned, I am on our board of trustees, leader of the Navigator USA Scout Troop that meets here at church, mother to Alex. Also, I like to run. And I'm also on the cusp of two generations, at times belonging to both and belonging to neither, Generation X and the Millennials. For my opening words, I wanted to share a handful of quotes about trust. Trust takes years to build, seconds to break, and forever to repair. Unknown. Trust is like a vase. Once it's broken, though you can fix it, the vase will never be the same. By Shakira Nandini from Broken Vases. Trust is not simply about believing someone's words, it's about relying on their actions. From J.M. Faulkner, Broken Promises. And finally, trust is like a mirror. You can fix it if it's broken, but you can still see the cracks. Lady Gaga from the Harvard University Commencement Address in 2015.
chalice, please. Plus, you only got the lighter. We light this chalice to find inner peace, love for each other, and faith in ourselves. Also to be welcoming to whomever we meet and kind to all living creatures. So gather around this light of hope as we share this time together. Unitarian Universalism is a covenantal faith. We will now read together our congregation's covenant. We strive to look for and encourage the best in each other as we move toward justice, peace, and love for both ourselves and each other. And when we fall short, we will seek understanding, reconciliation, and through covenant. Let's sing together Spirit of Life, number 123 in the Gray Book. You may sit or stand as you prefer. Our story today is Ruby Finds a Worry, although in my house this is called Charlie Finds a Worry. One second, we're getting there. All right. Ruby loved being Ruby. She loved to swing up high, and she loved to explore wild, faraway places. Sometimes she even went all the way to the very bottom of the garden. Ruby was perfectly happy until one day she discovered a worry. It wasn't a very big worry. In fact, it was so small that at first she hardly noticed it. But then the worry started to grow. Each day it got a little bit bigger. It just wouldn't leave her alone. It was there at breakfast, staring at her over the cereal box. And it was still there at night when she brushed her teeth. The funny thing was that no one else could see Ruby's worry, not even her teacher. So Ruby pretended that she couldn't see it either. She tried to carry on as if everything was normal, but it just wasn't. The worry was always there, stopping her from doing the things she loved. Ruby wondered if the worry would ever go away. What if it didn't? What if it stayed with her forever? Ruby didn't realize it, but she was doing the worst thing you can ever do with a worry. She was worrying about it. Now the worry was enormous. It could barely fit in the kitchen at dinner time. It filled up half the school bus. And it took up whole rows at the movie theater. The worry became the only thing that Ruby could think about, and it seemed like she would never feel happy again. Then one day, something unexpected happened. Ruby noticed a boy sitting alone at the park. He looked how she felt, sad. And then she noticed something else, something hovering next to him. Could it be a worry? It was. Ruby realized that she wasn't the only person with a worry after all. Other people had them too. She asked the boy what was on his mind. And as he told her, the strangest thing happened. His worry began to shrink. Then Ruby did the best thing you can ever do if you have a worry. She talked about it. As the words tumbled out, Ruby's worry began to shrink until it was barely there at all. Soon, both of their worries were gone. Finally, Ruby felt like herself again. Of course, that wasn't the last time she ever had a worry. Everyone gets them from time to time. But now that she knew how to get rid of them, they never hung around for long. And now we will sing our children out to their time with Jamie. Now is the time in the service when we take our offering for the work and welfare of this church. You may make checks out to UUCTS. Checks can be mailed or put in this Sunday's offering. For those of you joining us from home, you can donate on our website, uutarpon.org. Click the donate button and then select offering.
The Eastern world, it is exploding, violence flaring and bullets loading. You're old enough to kill, not for voting. You don't believe in war, but what's that gun you're toting? Even the Jordan River's got bodies floating, but you tell me over and over and over again, my friend, oh, you don't believe we're on the eve of destruction. Don't you understand what I'm trying to say? Can't you feel the fears that I'm feeling today? If the button is pushed, there's no running away. There'll be no one to save with the world in a grave. Take a look around you, boy, it's bound to scare you, boy, and you tell me over and over and over again, my friend, you don't believe we're on the eve of destruction. Yeah, my blood's so mad, feels like coagulating. I'm sitting here just contemplating. You can't twist the truth, it knows no regulating. And a handful of senators don't pass legislation. Marches alone can't bring integration when human respect is disintegrating. This whole crazy world is just too frustrating, but you tell me over and over and over again, my friend, that you don't believe we're on the eve eve of destruction. Yeah, you tell me over and over and over again, my friend, that you don't believe we're on the eve of destruction. Yeah, you don't believe we're on the eve of destruction.
Now we'll take a moment of silence to settle in and reflect. And today, I would invite you, if you wish, to consider a time when perhaps trust was damaged and then repaired.
Gonna make a change for once in my life. It's gonna feel real good, gonna make a difference, gonna make it right. As I turn up the collar on my favorite winter coat, the wind is blowing my mind. I see the kids in the street with not enough to eat. Who am I to be blind, pretending not to see their needs? A summer's disregard, a broken bottle top, and a one-man soul. They follow each other on the wind, you know, 'cause they got nowhere to go. That's why I want you to know I'm starting with the man in the mirror. I'm asking him to change his ways. And no message could have been any clearer. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and then make a change. Na 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 na. I've been a victim of a selfish kind of love. It's time that I realize that there are some with no home, not a nickel to loan. Could it be really me, pretending that they're not alone? A willow deeply scarred, somebody's broken heart, and a washed out dream. They follow the pattern of the wind, you see, 'cause they got no place to be. That's why I'm starting with me. I'm starting with the man in the mirror, and I'm asking him to change his ways. And no message could have been any clearer. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself, then make a change. I'm starting with the man in the mirror. I'm asking him to change his ways. No message could have been any clearer. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and then make the change. You got to get it right while you got the time. When you close your heart, you close your mind. Na 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 na.
We really asked Anne to push her boundaries a little bit this time, beyond what she normally has in her repertoire. So thank you. Yes. So I always tell people I'm good for one service a year. This is it. So done for 2025. But every single time I commit to a service, there's always something that really gives me a starting point in where I want to go. And this particular service, that starting point was last October. I was on a panel at a PFLAG event in October about how the organization I was volunteer with worked to fight policies that might be harmful to the LGBTQIA+ community. I was there representing Florida Freedom to Read Project and the importance of inclusive books. After the panel discussion came the audience Q&A. A question that really hit home came from a young adult who works with older teens and other young adults. To paraphrase, the question asked, how do you get young people to vote when they believe the world is ending in 10 years and some president won't be able to make a difference in 4 to 8 years? And to be clear, they were talking about the negative effects of climate change, policy decisions, laws passed years ago that are now showing their true effects. There was actually a good discussion yesterday at the movie regarding some of this between Greg and my boyfriend. So pretty interesting to see that come full circle right before this, this message. What it really did, though, was hit me. Others in my circle have said how my generation partly, but really those behind us believe that actions and decisions of my parents and my grandparents' generation, and in part mine, have not truly not left the world a better place for those to come. We have broken their trust. When children are born, they typically trust the adults around them to take care of them. The last 50+ years have served to break that trust for multiple generations. How do we get it back? Can we get it back? I firmly believe the lack of trust led to the low election turnout this past November and the current tumultuous situation we are seeing right now. Enough people, young people, decided to stay home this past November because the world was ending. Their vote didn't matter. They didn't trust the older generations, and they thought nothing would change. Too many of the older generations didn't believe Project 2025 would happen. And look what's happening right now. Too many of those who did get out to vote either thought Project 2025 was a good idea, or they just ignored it, and they focused on their immediate circumstances, holding on to hope that Trump really would lower the cost of groceries, the cost of rent, the cost of living in the US. Life expectancy has been trending down in the US since 2014, worldwide since 2019, noting that the US considerably lags behind comparable countries, average of 4 years less. Generation Y, or millennials, loosely defined as those born between 1981 and 1996, so me, I'm 1981, I'm right there. Lizzie's in there, you know, we're here. Those the first generation who will live worse off than their parents and have no path to improve that situation. The fundamental differences between this and previous generations lies not only in the difficulty of finding jobs, but in the conditions of the work they find. And this has consequences paid for many years. A recent Wall Street Journal NORC national poll found that in 2023, only 36% of Americans still believe in the American dream. That's compared to 48% in 2016 and 53% in 2012. Half the respondents said the economic system, it's stacked against them, and life is worse for the average American now than 50 years ago. The drop appears to have hit younger people and women the hardest. And this is all from that poll. A Voices of the Leaders Tomorrow report finds a lack of trust in the older generation of leaders regarding their decisions in the interest of younger generations. Basically, younger generations believe that those who are older put themselves first without care for the future. Only 1/3 of people, those polled, believe the older generations were willing to prioritize the interest of younger generations when making decisions. Now, think of it this way. So I just finished a couple episodes of my favorite podcast, Behind the Bastards, which I could totally go at length about. It's amazing. Ask me later. But the title of these 2 episodes was, In Honor of Our New Monarchy, Let's Talk About Versailles. The podcast itself told the history of King Louis XIV, the Sun King, and the building of Versailles. It was so much more than I ever realized. It was crazy I can't even describe it. But it's really interesting. But one thing really stood out to me. So Louis XIV, he wanted a forest around Versailles, right? But instead of planting seeds and waiting for those trees to grow and to have his forest, he had his subjects dig up trees from all over France and plant them around Versailles. About half of them died, and he just had more dug up and planted. He kept doing this over and over again until he had a forest. Our president, or the president, not my president, but the president, just ordered something similar on March 6th. He issued an executive order to increase logging in over 280 million acres of national forests. These trees are not replaceable for the next generations, either in France or now. When someone plants a tree for shade, it shouldn't be for themselves. It should be so their children and their grandchildren have shade. The cutting down of so many trees tells the next generations they don't need shade. They don't matter. Why does this matter? If the younger folks believe older folks are always putting themselves first, they learn they don't matter, that having a world for them to grow and thrive in doesn't matter and likely will not exist. So they turn to the people who promise them a better life. We're seeing this right now. We all see the stories of people who voted for the current president because he claimed he'd make IVF free. He'd lower the cost of groceries, lower taxes. He'd make America great again. People are learning to put themselves first because they believe no one else does. And over 1/3 didn't even bother to vote because they didn't believe it would make a difference. Almost 37% of eligible voters didn't vote this time. Most people have lost the ability to think because it's just easier not to think. They gave up the ability to think critically because it's too difficult to do so. They've ceded their power to get the perception of free will and let someone else make the decisions for them. They don't have a plan, so they just let someone else make those plans. Someone saying, I did my part, I gave money, I voted, I marched 20 years ago. It doesn't always acknowledge the pain. There are millionaires that give their money to put their name on a building, to make an already wealthy private school better for privileged. They don't acknowledge the pain, the lack of future our youth see. And someone saying, just trust me, I have your best interest at heart. That does nothing for those who believe the world is worse than it was a generation ago. Just ask how many of the thousands of people who've been paying on student loans for decades, yet still owe more than they borrowed. How did they feel when they're told they should have to pay them and they shouldn't get relief because their parents paid their loans? I mean, that wasn't that hard for them. It ignores that their parents could earn enough in a summer to pay tuition. My mom, she's amazing. She was able to earn enough every single summer to pay her tuition, whereas I had to pay off student loans for over 10 years and got really lucky with the no interest for years to finally get them done. There are families, ask the families who can't survive on 2 minimum wage incomes, but are being told minimum wage is all you need. You shouldn't get food stamps or Medicaid. Just work harder. Minimum wage was enough in the 50s. It should be enough now. Now, maybe I'm speaking to people who already know how their generation is part of the cause. Go to the community. But what can we do? We can go to the community and help others understand and acknowledge. Think about it this way. I grew up Methodist, right? I went to a Methodist church because that's where my parents took me. My mom went to that church for my dad, and my dad went there for my grandparents, who were devout Methodists. lived less than a mile from me growing up, and played a huge role helping to raise us. I left that church when that minister said my first real job, selling Cutco knives, wasn't actually a job because he didn't want his son to have the same job. Never mind, on one summer, I made enough money to pay for everything but tuition for my study abroad in Spain. Still wasn't a real job because he didn't want his son to do it. Now, I know we have some people in this congregation who are lifelong UUs, but how many of us, like me, who discovered Unitarian Universalism, who has a mom who discovered Unitarian Universalism in her 50s, started somewhere completely different, and someone did or said something that started us on our path to a more progressive outlook on life? The U Church, the drive to focus on the basic worth in all human beings. Can we be that someone or support that something for someone else? I want to think about that. Brené Brown wrote an article on what it really means to trust, explaining the complexity of trust, how it's gained, how it's lost, why trusting ourselves is so important. I believe that we can also say the same for why gaining back the trust of younger generations is important. She gave an acronym for building trust, BRAVING, B-R-A-V-I-N-G. Boundaries, reliability, accountability, the vault, integrity, non-judgment, and generosity. Boundaries means making sure we're clear about our boundaries, but also understanding and respecting the boundaries of others. Reliability is when someone does what they say they're going to do over and over again, not just once. Accountability is owning up to mistakes, apologizing, making amends. The vault is holding information safe within us so others can build confidence that they can trust us. Integrity is choosing courage over comfort, what is right over what is fun, fast, and easy. Non-judgment is about being vulnerable with someone without being judged by them, letting them be vulnerable without being judged by us. Generosity is understanding that if we make a mistake, others will be upfront about it, but assume we had good intentions, and then being accountable. If we can practice these in our daily lives and encourage others to do so, perhaps we can regain trust. First, and possibly the most important step, is acknowledging what has been done. And that doesn't mean that the person sitting right in front of me has individually, on their own, been responsible for the fact that the children in this congregation and this generation will have a less of a chance at a good life than the adults in front of me. It's acknowledging that multiple generations as a whole took steps to make this so. Now, I want to bring up the question that was asked. Is it worth rebuilding the trust of younger generations? I myself am right on that edge. As I mentioned, I was born in 1981. I fight. I'm here, and I want the world to be a better place for my child. But I'm also on the edge of whether or not that's feasible. If I should just focus on making sure my child gets the best possible opportunities without worrying about others. Being here in this congregation, seeing those around me who truly care about the world, gives me hope. If we can get enough people to take action, then we can change the world. We can regain the trust. We can reverse the trend. It is worth it. And circle back around to that question that I was asked on the panel: how to convince the young people their vote matters. I answered, talk about the local immediate effects. Elected school board members will have an immediate impact on the current school year as they're sworn in within a few weeks of the election. They make changes that have an immediate effect on those 18-year-old high school students. The same with city council or city and county council members, police commissioners, fire commissioners, and other local politicians. In Pinellas County, when some of our county commissioners were considering taking away funding from the Palm Harbor Library and Parks and Rec last year, there was an email and a phone call campaign. The commissioners, in support of the removing the funding, backed down because of the overwhelming calls and emails they received. Now, while I didn't have this example at the time, and I was thinking of this sermon, this message, it just came up recently. Ask the small group of people who spoke up in Montana last week. There were several anti-trans bills advancing through the legislature, with votes mainly along party lines. They were going to pass. One was anti-drag. It was going to criminalize drag performances. The other one was going to take away transgender youth from their parents. There were several powerful speeches. Republicans slipped, killing 2 of the most extreme bills in the Montana House. The one about drag, 13 Republicans flipped. The one about removing transgender youth, 29 Republicans flipped. And I can give you a link to the article if you want. They flipped in part from speeches from transgender lawmakers and Republican speakers. And I guarantee you, every single House member heard from their constituents. So I might pretend to come up with a solution for the entire question of gaining back trust. Perhaps building part of the solution involves starting local, starting small, building to something greater. Give money when we tell others they should. Donate blood when we tell others they should. Be an example of an individual who is here, who is supportive, caring, and worthy of trust. Acknowledge the mistake. Fix it together with the next generations. Work to model and repair. As a community, we can take these small actions to rebuild trust. We need to be the example. We also need to do the things no one else sees to make the world a better place. Be the person in the soup kitchen washing dishes so that someone else can serve the food to the unhoused and be the public face. Be the mentor for one individual child in the public school who just needs that safe adult to set a good example. Be the person who makes the sign if you can't get out to march, who sends the postcards, who plants the seeds so the next generation knows someone has fought for them. Keep making the phone calls and the emails to Congress so they know their constituents don't like what's happening and want them to change it. Find out how our local representatives feel about DOJ, because it's out there. Call them, email them, do both. They both need to be done, and tell them how we feel. Encourage others to do so, to call and email. Keep recycling, it's kind of key. And whenever possible, put our money where it can do the most good without expecting recognition. Our name doesn't have to be on a scholarship or a building to make a difference. We as Unitarian Universalists need to continue expanding our presence in the community without expecting people to join our congregation. Just know that seeing a person who cares, who can be trusted, may make a difference to the next person who can make an even bigger difference. Now, I want to end today with a story that gave me hope. I was at an event last Sunday. It was a sad event. It was the goodbye for the family, a well-loved family moving to Uruguay because they're not safe here. They just aren't. And I mentioned to another parent I was doing the service. The parent told me the following story, and this is literally the quote. He texted it, so I had to have it for this particular service. So when I reference it's him talking, not me. On Saturday, my partner's friend met up with us at the pool with her boyfriend and kids. The kids played, and the boyfriend, another veteran, and I spoke about their time in the military. The boyfriend was smoking, and he threw his butt in an adjacent lake. My son immediately corrected him. I stopped my son, and I explained he needs to change his approach and cannot reprimand adults. But he is free to educate or enlighten them. We continued to talk, and the boyfriend moved on. Later, while talking again, the boyfriend smoked another 2 cigarettes, and I stopped him. I said, "Hey, we're both prior military, same service. We know better." He agreed, picked up the butts. No argument, just a friendly reminder of how we were taught and a gentle nudge in the right direction.
Thank you so much, Barbara. I invite you to rise. Is this right? I don't want to do it. Okay. Rise in body or spirit and cap off that sermon by singing hymn number 168, One More Step.
One more step, we will take one more step, till there is peace for us, and everyone will take one more step. One more word, we will say one more word, till every word is heard by everyone. We'll say one more word. One more prayer, we will say one more prayer, till every prayer is shared by everyone. We'll say one more prayer. One more song, we will sing one more song, till every song is sung by everyone. We'll sing one more song.
All right. I want to close with these words. Cherish Your Doubts by Michael A. Schuler. Cherish your doubts, for doubt is the servant of truth. Question your convictions, for beliefs held too tightly held strangle the mind and its natural wisdom. Suspect all certitudes, for the world whirls on, nothing abides. Yet in our inner room full of doubts, inquiry, and suspicion, let a corner be reserved for trust. For without trust, there is no space for communities to gather or friendships to be forged. Indeed, this is the small corner where we connect and reconnect with each other.
Some of us have feathers, some of us have fins, some of us are furry, and some of us have grins. We'll swim and hop and slither, we leap and soar and run, and we all live together on a planet of the sun. We are all earthlings, we are all earthlings, spinning around together on a planet of the sun. We live in the desert, we live inside a tree, we live high on a mountain or deep beneath the sea. We live in tents, in cabins, in houses just for one, and we all live together on a planet of the sun. We are all earthlings, We are all earthlings, spinning around together on a planet of the sun, floating down a river or swinging through the trees, climbing up a mountain and going with the breeze. All of us can have a happy, healthy place to be if we can float and swim and climb in earthling harmony. We are all earthlings. We are all earthlings, spinning around together on a planet of the sun, spinning around together on a planet of the sun.
Thank you for that, Anne. That was a Sesame Street song. For those of you who don't know, it sounded much more refined today. And when I hear it in the car with my 3-year-old, I always think of church, so we had to include it today. We hope that you found meaning in today's service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of peace and the love for ourselves and others. May we carry kindness and compassion in our hearts and out into the world.